Welcome back to Andersen Acres. We're going to do a really easy bun today that is also really delicious. It's a lot of fun to make and it's a little bit unique. It's not the same old dinner roll all the time. These are baked potato rolls. They literally taste like a baked potato. So let's get started. We're going to use our bread maker just because it's easier. You can do it by hand, but I'm using my bread maker. First thing we're going to add, 1 egg. Just plop it in there. Doesn't matter. We're also going to get a 1/4 cup of sour cream. All right, you can overfill. It's actually okay if you use extra sour cream. I'm going to use a little extra. 1/4 to 1/2 cup, but a 1/4 cup if you're not sure, and then 1/2 cup if you have done it before and you want a little more. 1 cup of milk, at least 2%. You can use whole milk as well. Do not use 1% milk. It doesn't turn out quite as rich. We want 1 teaspoon of salt. Any salt you have is perfectly fine. 2 tablespoons of sugar. It is important that you have that much sugar. It sounds like more than normal, and it is, but there's a good reason. It offsets the sour cream that we put in. 2 tablespoons of dried chives. They're fantastic in this. Now, we said it was a baked potato roll, where we're going to need some potato. We're going to use potato flakes. So this is about 1/2 cup of potato flakes. In theory, you can use baked potatoes, like mashed potatoes. You can do that. You just need to reduce your liquid a little bit because mashed potatoes have some liquid in them. But I'm just using 1/2 cup of potato flakes instead. Then you want 2 1/2 cups of just regular all-purpose flour, just your white flour. No big deal. Easy flour. You don't want to replace the flour with something else. It won't come out quite right. This is one of those recipes where it's actually really important that you do use your regular white flour. Then you want 1 heaping teaspoon of yeast. I'm using bread machine yeast. That's because it's going in the bread maker. If you're not using your bread maker, you would use a more traditional yeast. So now we're just going to pop this in the bread maker. It will mix it, knead it, and handle the first rise for me. We will come back after that first rise and we will start shaping our buns. This one's a lot of fun. And we're back with our baked potato dough. It has risen up nicely. So first we just need to prep our pan before we deal with that dough. We're just going to spray our cake pan, basically, that we're using for our rolls with a canola oil cooking spray. You can, of course, butter and flour your pan instead. You can line it with wax paper, whatever you like. I prefer using cooking spray because it's quick and easy. Remember, these might stick a little, so you might need a little extra cooking spray or a little extra flour just to keep it from sticking. All right, set that aside for a minute. Now we're going to take, knock the camera. We're going to take our dough and smash the air out of it. Okay, you want to get those air bubbles out. So you just want to work your dough. You're not kneading it because it doesn't need any more kneading. It's quite prepped. You just want to squeeze all those air bubbles out. Make sure you get them all. Deflate your dough a little bit. There, you might be able to hear some of those bubbles popping. So that's what we just want to get all those bubbles out. Also make sure that your chives are nicely distributed through your dough. Once you've done that, kind of form a ball, and you're going to cut your ball into 4 because we're going to divide this dough into 12. So we're just going to divide it into 4. It's not really that crucial that they're exactly equal. It's not a big deal. So then we're going to take each of these 4 pieces and we're going to divide those into 3. Again, they don't have to be perfect. It's not that big a deal. This is a pretty pliable dough. I should mention that I did have to add about 3/4 of an extra cup of flour to my dough today. I did that off camera. And that's just because sometimes that happens with the changes in humidity and temperature, especially around here in the winter. You can have a really dry day. You can have a really humid day. It's very complicated, our weather. So we did have to add a little extra flour, and that's normal. Anytime you're making a recipe, even if you make exactly the same recipe, you might have to use slightly different amounts of flour. So keep your liquid consistent, and if you do have to add more flour, just add more flour. It's not that big a deal. If you have to add a little extra water here and there, you know, if it's too dry, you might have to add a tablespoon or so of water. Just don't add a lot of flour or water at a time. Kind of be careful so that you don't make a dough that is too wet or too dry, because then it's just a never-ending pancake batter. situation where you can never get it quite the right consistency. So add flour and water carefully as you go if you need to add a little extra. So yes, I added about a quarter cup extra, 3/4 of a cup, sorry, extra flour, but I didn't add that all at once. I didn't just get a quarter or 3/4 of a cup and just dump it in. I did it about 1/8 of a cup at a time. If you're adding water because your dough is too dry, you want to add it about a tablespoon at a time. So you don't want to get crazy because then you'll just end up having to add more flour, then you add more water again because you overshot it. Just be careful. So you'll see we're shaping our buns the same way we've shaped buns before, so I don't really have to explain how to do that. You can shape them any way you like. I just like to turn them inside out, basically, so that all the mess is on the bottom, then you get nice smooth tops. So you can shape them any way you like. It's not really a matter of how to shape them, it's just your preference. There's no right or wrong way to shape a dough. So there we go. Our 12 buns are formed and they're in our pan. You just want to make sure they're equally spaced. We're going to set this aside somewhere warm to rise. I usually use my microwave, but you can use whatever you like. So we're going to let those rise probably for about 45 minutes. Then we're going to come back and bake them if they have doubled in size. All right, our baked potato rolls have risen to about double their original size. They are now ready to bake. We are not putting anything on them. We're not brushing them with egg. We're not brushing them with milk, nothing. We're going to bake them just as they are. They are going to bake at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 25 to 30 minutes. Check after 25. You don't want them super dark. So we'll come back in 25 to 30 minutes and see how they look. And there we have it. There are our baked potato rolls fresh out of the oven. They are finished. You can tell when they're hollow when tapped. See, just like that. Nice and baked, pretty golden brown. You can either serve them directly from the pan or you can remove them from the pan and place them on a plate or in a basket. Either way, they are absolutely delicious, especially with a little bit of sour cream on them or a little bit of butter. So I hope you've enjoyed making baked potato rolls with us today. If you want to keep updated on everything that's happening in the kitchen and on the farm, don't forget to subscribe. See you tomorrow.